Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and busts. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, word coming down from federal authorities that there was a man who was arrested about a block away from the incident where the officer was being beaten, remember, with shovels and broom handles last night in Minneapolis. And there was a guy arrested there with gang connections who had a loaded handgun, and he was assaulting officers. What could go wrong with that? That is so unbelievably dangerous. That's the nightmare scenario. And it makes you wonder how many more are like that. And why is Tim Walz and also, Jacob Frey, those are the two Minneapolis officials, of course, the governor and the mayor there. Tim Walz continues his rhetoric, calling this a campaign of organized brutality by the feds. They are completely fueling the flames. Because what? They want chaos on the streets so they could say, keep us in control. We're the only ones who can control the chaos. They want to create more people to get shot? I'm just asking the question. It seems like they're not doing anything to clamp down. And just last night, we're getting more details of what happened last night because they're protesting right now. They're also being attacked, officers. They're being assaulted. They also have different fences around the federal ICE facility there in Minneapolis. Things are getting very, very heated. And this is only a few days in, guys. But here is Kristi Noem. She's the Secretary, of course, of Homeland Security. And she described what happened to that officer last night. That's the one who was beaten by 3 illegal migrants. And he shot the one in the leg and stopped the attack on the officer. Listen to how bad things got.
Well, our agents were out doing what they're doing every single day across this country, as they were doing targeted enforcement, going after individuals that are breaking federal law. When this individual drove away, crashed his car, tried to run into a home, and as they were wrestling on the ground trying to detain this individual, 2 other men came out of that building and started attacking him with weapons and shovels and brooms. And as it was 3-on-1, the agent feared for his life and defensively had to take action. But, this kind of violence is perpetuated by what we hear the governor saying, what we hear the mayor in Minneapolis saying, and their irresponsibility is extremely reckless. Governor Tim Walz has my phone number. I have called him and talked to him and said, listen, you let your city burn down in 2020. Don't do it again. President Trump wants to keep everybody safe. We're enforcing federal law. We're protecting every single American. Work with us. Now, I want to remind you that Minneapolis itself, under the mayor's leadership and the governor's leadership, released almost 500 criminals out onto the streets rather than bring them to justice and turn them over to federal authorities. So they know they're releasing murderers and rapists and drug traffickers on the streets of Minneapolis. We're out there making sure they don't harm American citizens, and we're getting attacked while we do it, but we're going to continue to do our work and do what's right because it's what President Trump promised the American people.
What a stern warning, saying to Walz, you let your city burn down in 2020. Don't do it again. And yet, listen to this. This is State Senator Bobby Joe Champion, Democrat from Minnesota. And he really has a whole different impression of what happened on the streets there last night. Take a listen.
If there were neighbors and others who came out to help this person, that is just an example of Minnesota being a place where we help our neighbors. And we are clear that the ICE agents have been coming here, and there's over 2,000 of them. And they've been attacking and terrorizing our state. So, yes, neighbors will come out and be helpful. I'm not certain if they had brooms or shovel. That is to be further investigated.
If they did, in fact, have some sort of weapons to use to attack the ICE officer, would that change your opinion of whatever unfolded next?
actually no, right? Because from our vantage point, we wanted to make sure and always wanted to make sure that Minnesotans are being dealt with properly. And when we think in terms of any pursuit or any apprehension of anyone, there's a way for you to do your work where it's respectful and it's fair. We unfortunately have seen ICE not be respectful, not be fair, but to be illegal and to attack and to be very aggressive with Minnesotans. And to see that the federal government has made a decision to attack and send more and more agents here and allow them to be allow them to misbehave, we think that's a tragedy and a travesty.
That is really an eye-opening remark. You heard the reporter say, your neighbors, right? You know, because he's talking about the neighbors. The neighbors are the folks who were beating the ICE agent. And then the host there said, well, would it change your opinion if you found out that they were armed with shovels or brooms? And his answer was, no, not necessarily. I guess those are the kind of neighbors you want to have that go and beat officers with shovels and brooms. That to me is such a dangerous, preposterous comment. And yet he's not alone, this guy. Listen to Senator Ed Markey, Democrat of Massachusetts, because he's introduced some really very dangerous legislation that would hurt officers on so many levels. Take a listen to this.
At the same time, there is another doctrine. It's called qualified immunity. And that's a special Supreme Court created precedent which says that Renee Good's family, for example, cannot sue the ICE agent who murdered Renee Good. And that doctrine is something which must be repealed. Renee Good's family has a right to make that ICE officer accountable for what they did to their family. And that's why Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley and I have introduced legislation to repeal qualified immunity, which is what that's called, for state, local, and federal law enforcement officers.
So in other words, make them vulnerable to lawsuits, tie them up in court left and right, just like you did to Donald Trump, Democrats, and make sure that nobody wants to be a federal agent because they're going to worry about getting sued. I mean, this is really dangerous territory, and it shows that they will do anything, I believe, for politics. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Reggie in the great state of Texas. Reg, your thoughts tonight?
Oh, well, yeah, great state of Texas, that's for sure. Miss Rita, the first thing I want to say is that first state senator from Minnesota, he needs to get drug tested. And I guess he was a big Prince follower because Prince was a pretty creative guy. He's very creative with the truth.
Yeah, he sure. By the way, and Prince, I love Prince. Prince was great. I mean, this is just a lunacy land. At least Prince was a great singer, a great guitarist. You know, you could say that. He's very talented. This guy, I'm not sure what he is.
No, obviously he's fast and loose with the truth. This was the point I was going to make when I got on with your call screener. It behooves Walz and that other stooge, Frey or Frey, however he pronounces his name, to keep this going. What was at the forefront was Nick Shirley and all the information he and the other man discovered about all the fraud that was going on. And that was all the publicity his state was getting. And it was so bad that he's not even going to run for re-election. The longer this goes on and the bigger distraction this is, the longer it keeps him and anyone else from pointing the finger at him, justifiably so, for the fiscal disaster up there with our taxpayer dollars. And I wish these people in Minnesota, these Looney Tunes, would be this ticked off about their tax dollars and mine and your tax dollars being thrown away as they are about the law doing their job.
Yeah, and by the way, I agree with you. I wish they were that upset. I also wish I wish there were people out there who were saying, "Don't you dare do that to our law enforcement." I wish they had equally passionate people on the other side who were out there saying, "Stand back. What's wrong with you people?" Like I think anybody who's out there shaming law enforcement, who are just trying to round up criminals, especially those with some pretty serious criminal records. I agree with you. You have a screw loose. And those people, how about during the protests? Remember, Reggie, during all the different protests that were taking place on college campuses. And finally, a number of people said, you know what? We don't want to hire people like that. We don't want to hire people that are anti-Semitic, that are shouting pro-Hamas phrases, that are saying horrible, disgusting things. And then suddenly there were a lot of these students who were like, wah, wah. They were very upset that somehow it could hurt their future. I'm not saying to destroy somebody's future, but if somebody is blocking law enforcement and doing things that are impeding, people should know about it. And guess what? Maybe people in the neighborhood think twice about that person, or maybe an employer thinks twice about that person. Do you really want to hire somebody who is maybe trying to assault a police officer or trying to impede a police officer? What does that say about their character, Reggie?
It speaks volumes, but Ms. Rita, this just falls right into place with what we've noticed. The whole moral compass has been, it needs to be recalibrated. Every issue that's on the wrong side, the Democrats are opposed to. Everything. They just want it. It doesn't even matter whether it's righteous or not, as long as Trump's on one side of it. Think about how easily, as I mentioned earlier, how easily Walz could solve this. Hey, I'm going to have the Minneapolis police keep these help ICE out, keep public safety in mind. You mentioned law enforcement not being attacked. I am going to take a shot at those police officers up in Minneapolis and these other sanctuary cities. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. You are not living up to your constitutional oath. You swore to the Constitution that you would uphold the law and protect the citizenry. You're not doing that. Running from these aren't protests now, they're riots. Running from riots and letting fellow law enforcement there possibly be killed and injured. You're not a policeman. You know what? You're a coward for doing that. You're a coward, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I'd say that to their face.
Yeah, and how about this new news tonight, Reggie, too, about this man who was arrested. He was about a block away from where that incident was happening, where that officer was being beaten by 3 illegal immigrants. And in this case, this guy was found to be assaulting a police officer, and they determined that he had a loaded handgun on him. I mean, that's an incredible thing. A loaded handgun on him. Think about how dangerous that is, not just for law enforcement, but somebody else in the crowd, if that gun goes off intentionally or accidentally.
That's the topper on the cake. And I think that the citizens of this country, we need to open up our eyes and understand what's happening to us. This goes way beyond what we're seeing. This is deep rooted, Miss Rita. This is basically the caving in of our society. That's what they're looking for. They want no law and order. Then that Markey character talking about qualified immunity. So every police officer, when he slaps a handcuff on someone, he should now worry about being sued because some yahoo in Congress decided that he doesn't like the law that's on the books now.
Right, and that is going to have, if it were to happen, and I don't see that getting passed, but the fact that there's even a Democrat who's pushing that, that would have a chilling effect, to your point, on the way law enforcement would carry out their job. If you pull qualified immunity and say, okay, well, now you're open for suits left and right, you're going to get bogged down left and right, just like President Trump did. I made that analogy there, Reggie, because that seems to be the exact same thing that they were doing with President Trump. At every turn, they were trying to bog him down and try to sue him and try to hold him up in court and try to make sure that his policies wouldn't happen. And that's what they want to do with these law enforcement members. They want to sue them or threaten the suit so they'll be afraid to really be aggressive. And guess what? Not only does that keep folks out on the street, that puts law enforcement in danger. If they hesitate at that critical moment, they get run over. They could get shot at. They could get beaten to death. You can't have them have something else on their mind other than protecting all of us, which is what they do so well. Reggie, thank you very much. And by the way, I know we have a lot of law enforcement folks who listen to this show because we love you so much here on the Rita Cosby Show. I want to hear from you. And hear what you think about Senator Ed Markey actually proposing legislation to repeal qualified immunity for state, local, and federal law enforcement officers, for all law enforcement officers, saying it's open season for lawsuits against you. That is shocking. Absolutely shocking. 1-800-848-9222. We'll continue your calls, everybody, after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And we are not forgetting about the protesters that are there in Iran. By the way, some new word tonight. Remember, President Trump said he's getting reports that they have stopped the killing of protesters. It's unclear if that's accurate or not. Maybe President Trump is saying that as a decoy, as we're also hearing that an air carrier group, particularly the Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier, is headed towards that area. So who knows what's in store for Iran to protect these protesters. But part of the reason, according to one report, and this is chilling, that the protesters are not being killed is because the protesters are afraid now to come out because apparently there are tanks everywhere on the streets of Tehran, and that they are surrounding a lot of homes, particularly where a lot of the protesters are, sending a message, you can't even come out of your house. So essentially putting them under house arrest. So that is a very chilling development. And of course, we'll keep you posted as to what President Trump will do. I think he will do something. It's just a question of when and how. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Bill in New Jersey on line 1. Go ahead, Bill. Your thoughts tonight.
Hi, Rita. How are you?
Good. What do you think? This is troubling, all this stuff going on in the streets, huh?
Yes, very much so. A quick sidebar. Yesterday I was reading an article about the woman who tried to murder the police officer by running him over with her car. And they were talking about the school that they put the child in. And the fundamental curriculum of the school is social justice. So in math, there's social justice. In English, there's social justice. And maybe that gives you a better clue into what type of person she was.
That's interesting. By the way, you saw this Ice Watch group, too, that she had connections to. A lot of reports she had ties to this Ice Watch group, which if you look at their manual, Bill, essentially in there it says, use your body or use your vehicle to block ice. But that is interesting. You're right. It gives some insight into the individual and her actions.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on.
And I think in some of the craziest comments that we have heard coming out of Minneapolis, you have to see this comment coming from Jacob Frey. Of course, he is the Minneapolis mayor. And this was right after that shooting took place last night, where the officer was being ambushed by 3 illegal migrants, one of them with a significant criminal history. And listen to what Jacob Frey had to say. He's standing next to the police chief of Minneapolis, and then he makes this absurd comment about residents wanting to have police fight ICE. I mean, if that doesn't sound like an insurrection, I don't know what does.
And we're in a position right now where we have residents that are asking the very limited number of police officers that we have to fight ICE agents on the street, to stand by their neighbors. We cannot be at a place right now in America where we have two governmental entities that are literally fighting one another. Why are we put in this position? We're put in this position because we have approximately 600 police officers in Minneapolis, far fewer that are able to work at any given time. And there are approximately 3,000 ICE agents in the area. 3,000.
Which is why you should work with them and appreciate that they're there to help clean up the streets. But no, that's not the case with crazy Jacob Frey. And if you think things are crazy, you should have heard the White House briefing room today. I've been in the White House briefing room. I've been a reporter for many, many years, you guys, and I was a senior correspondent for Fox News in Washington, White House correspondent, sitting in that briefing room asking a lot of questions. And today I heard one of the craziest things I've ever heard. This is a reporter. Listen to this guy with the British accent. This is with the Hill publication. And he was asking about ICE, and he clearly came in with an agenda. His name is Niall Stanage, and he was grilling this British journalist was grilling Karoline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, talking about what he says are the terrible things that ICE has done. Never saying anything good they did. He clearly had this agenda that ICE was, I think he worked for like Jacob Frey or Tim Walz. I'm being facetious, but it seemed like he was just being a mouthpiece for them. But listen to this exchange, and Karoline Leavitt, who is terrific, she just went right back at this guy and called him a hack. Everybody is talking about this exchange. Take a listen. This is during the White House briefing. And, Karoline Leavitt does, her statements and talks about what the president said. And then she said, let me open it up for questions. And this guy from the Hill publication said this. Listen to this exchange.
Thanks, Caroline. Earlier, you were just defending ICE agents generally. And earlier on, Secretary Noem spoke to the media. And she said, among other things, that they are doing everything correctly. 32 people died in ICE custody last year. 170 U.S. citizens were detained by ICE. And Renee Good was shot in the head and killed by an ICE agent. How does that equate to them doing everything correctly?
Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Are you asking me my opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed her unjustifiably.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. You're not a reporter. You're posing in this room as a journalist, and it's so clear by the premise of your question. And you and the people in the media who have such biases but fake like you're a journalist, you shouldn't even be sitting in that seat. But you're pretending like you're a journalist, but you're a left-wing activist. And the question that you just raised and your answer proves your bias. You should be reporting on the facts. You should be reporting on the cases. Do you have the numbers of how many American citizens were killed at the hands of illegal aliens who ICE is trying to remove from this country? I bet you don't. I bet you didn't even read up on those stories. I bet you never even read about Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nungray or all of the innocent Americans who were killed at the hands of illegal aliens in this country. And the brave men and women of ICE are doing everything in their power to remove those heinous individuals and make our communities safer. And shame on people like you in the media who have a crooked view and have a biased view and pretend like you're a real honest journalist.
That's what you call a searing. And that guy deserved it. I'm all for all sides of different things. Here's what one side says. Here's what the other side says. That's what journalists are supposed to do. I'm all for that. But this guy to come in and say that essentially he didn't use the word murder, but he came very close to saying that ICE murdered Renee Good, and like just in cold blood for the heck of it almost. That was almost the way it sounded to me. That's my opinion. I mean, that was just, that was really so over the top. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222, and you are listening to The Rita Cosby Show. Let's go to Pete in New Jersey on line 5. Pete, what did you make of that smackdown by Karoline Leavitt?
Oh, brother. Hi, Rita. a very related, very pertinent, and educational message comes to us from the woman who smuggled her book out of Vietnam in the 1980s. She wanted to tell all the women of the world who vote for left-wing or work with left-wing organizations that she and all the women of Vietnam who spent their 20s and their 30s laboring on behalf of the revolution for the party, at the end of the war, they were all arrested. Many of them were shot dead along with their families, and the rest of them, including her, spent between 6 and 8 years in mandatory re-education in labor camps. Her book was called Red Dragon Rising.
Wow.
And she wanted to tell all the women of the world, you are being had by the left wing, you're being used, and you are being had, and they will get rid of anybody who helps them advance their cause. When they do come into power, they get rid of you and your family first. And that's my message. Red Dragon Rising.
Now, let me ask you. By the way, thank you, Pete, because that is really fascinating. I definitely will read it, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners. Pete, when you see these women that are out there, because it is a lot of women, it's a lot of Caucasian women that seem to be out there in these anti-ICE protests. There's a lot of other folks too. But what is it that they're sort of like drinking the Kool-Aid out there?
Well, the women, the Caucasian women, largely vote for the Democratic Party. They don't even know that the Democratic Party is part of the world communist revolution. They don't even know and don't want to know, but that's who they vote for. They're frightened. They're trapped.
But they care about security. I mean, that's the thing. All people, whether it's women or men, care about safety in the streets. Like, to me, it really is like they're almost like you brought up like a re-education camp. That's what it feels like they're sent to some indoctrination camp where somebody says, okay, well, authorities are bad. You're going to believe that, and you're going to even try to put your vehicle in harm's way. You're going to speed up when they tell you to slow down. You're going to throw an ice bottle at I mean, it's really shocking to me because it's pretty fundamental. I mean, if you grew up in a good household or a household with parents that taught you good values, it's a fundamental thing. I mean, I remember at a very young age, my parents always saying, respect law enforcement, respect authority, respect men and women in whether it's police or in veterans, whatever it is, respect that. To me, it's unconscionable to do anything other. And I assume many of these people grew up in similar homes, right? So how did they flip? What is there some microchip in their head that made them flip the script?
No, their grandmothers and their mothers were taught that your liberation depends upon you voting for the Democratic Party, and that's what it is. So these are the grown-up great-grandchildren and grandchildren. They don't know anything. The woman, Vietnam, Red Dragon Rising, she was the head of all education in Vietnam Revolution of women and children. She was the head of the cadre. She lived her life underground in a tunnel in her 20s and 30s. She got between 6 and 8 years re-education mandatory labor camp. The others were shot dead along with their family. That's what the communist revolution is. It's not a political system. It is not an economic system. It's a mandatory religion of the devil, Lucifer. That's what communism is.
Well, and it is absolutely dangerous. And again, to me, when I hear that people feel they're indoctrinated and to go to the point where they would defy authority, it is utterly shocking to me. And I still don't understand the mindset of how somebody could do that. And I think you hit it on the head because they hate President Trump so much, and the Democratic Party will do anything to defy President Trump. I think it was today that we heard comments, and I was listening to a number of different folks who came out and essentially said that they believe that, many of these politicians, especially that are spearheading a lot of these efforts and egging on some of these women that you're talking about, that many of them, they believe, hate America, that they hate Trump more than they love this country, and that they're willing to just kind of turn a blind eye to the values of America because they're so blinded by Trump. And that is really frightening. Really, really frightening. And I think they're probably spot on. I'm going to read that book, Pete. Thank you very much. Really interesting conversation. Let's go to Norm in Brooklyn, line 1. Norm, your thoughts tonight.
Yeah, hi, Rita. Yeah, President Trump needs to invoke that Insurrection Act. The governor of Minnesota is out of control. Frey is out of control. These people need to be in jail. I mean, they're cruising for a bruising, these people. I mean, they're just setting people up to get killed out there.
Yeah, almost an officer last night, Norm, and then we just found out. You probably heard at the top of this hour, this man was arrested. There was a guy with some gang connections arrested for having a loaded gun about a block away. I mean, that's pretty dangerous. My goodness.
Oh yeah, big time dangerous. And I'm just saddened to see this. I'm saddened to see, the barbarity of what's being encouraged in states like Minnesota. And now something else is going to happen. Whatever it is, I don't know. Last time it was COVID. Some other shoe's going to drop. I don't know. Whatever it's going to happen, and it's going to exacerbate this to the maximum. And the Dems are going to love it, whatever it is, because that's how they gain power.
Well, that's why I actually think, Norm, what Kristi Noem was saying in her message, and it's very similar to what you're saying there, that she was saying to Walz particularly and Jacob Frey, you don't want to rehash of 2020. Maybe they do want to rehash of 2020. Right, because if you didn't learn anything from your police station burning to the ground in 2020, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, nobody wants to go back to 2020, but maybe they do, because maybe they saw that as they saw it as a winning solution, Norm?
Yeah, their careers were made during that time. That's where they gained notoriety. So, they want that. They will benefit from crisis. That's it. So I don't know. I don't know what that shoe is going to be. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they might revisit another disease thing. I don't know.
Right. Another Wuhan lab, right?
Something. They're going to do something. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I agree. And that's the really scary thought. There's something, because they know they're not stupid. They know what they're doing. And it's continuing to this moment, and they're not really backing down. They kind of make this, peaceful, but then keep going, guys. And ICE is the worst. I mean, they're willing to vilify. They're willing to have massive protests that are getting completely out of hand. They're willing to have federal agents attacked, and they're still condemning ICE. So they know what they're doing. And I agree with you. The question is, to what end? And it is an election year, and I don't think it's a coincidence. And I'm with you, Norm. It saddens me, but I think that's exactly where it's at. Boy, oh boy, buckle up, right, Norm? Everybody, we're going to continue your calls after the break. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from Paducah, Kentucky. I've been to Paducah, Kentucky. I was there covering a couple stories when I was at Fox News. And there in Paducah, some local military veterans were honored for their service during a Quilts of Valor ceremony at the National Quilt Museum in Paducah, Kentucky, which is beautiful. The Quilts of Valor Foundation Countdown to America 250 exhibition celebrated the lead up to the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And, of course, that ceremony and big celebration caps off July 4th, 2026. And the group spotlighted a whole bunch of different folks, including Air Force veteran Kimberly Ann. She joined the Air Force at the age of 39, and she spent 4 years as an airman and briefly worked as a bioenvironmental engineer in Ohio. She went on then to join the military late in life. She said it came with some challenges, as many people she trained with were still teenagers. But she said she was so glad to be there. She also got a social work degree to help other veterans and assist with trauma recovery for veterans who come back from war and have many of the unseen wounds of war. So bravo to her and the Quilts of Valor for recognizing our great veterans and helping them. And everybody, all it takes is just $11 a month to make a huge difference in our veterans' lives, in the heroes and also their families. Donate just $11 a month to the incredible Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the best organization ever. Be sure to check them out at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's continue with your calls, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Max in Manhattan on line 1. Go ahead, Max, your thoughts. Hey, Max, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. You got to be ready. Go ahead.
I'm ready. Okay, Norman, what Norman was talking about, I agree with. I think the Dems are going to send out another false flag looking to blame the right on anything, just to get away with violence and burning down buildings.
You know what, Max?
I'd like to add something else.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you. I agree. I think that there's some sort of master scheme here, and they keep using the same phrases. It's clearly an orchestrated effort. There's no doubt about that. Let's go to Pat in New Jersey because we just have a little bit of time left. Max, thanks so much. Let's go to Pat in line 4.
I'm going to move it on as fast as I can. It's so disheartening to me to see the disrespect that our officers are getting for just trying to protect us, and it brings back a bad memory for me during the Vietnam War when they had no choice. My high school sweetheart was drafted, and I watched when they would come home on leave, you had to come full dress on standby. And what took place...
I assume, Pat, you're talking about sort of the horrible treatment of when they came back home and talk about heroes. I mean, for folks to go there to fight in Vietnam, and you're right, for them to come back and treat it so horribly. I think that that's actually a really good analogy because I do consider the members of ICE heroes. I consider members of law enforcement heroes, military heroes, and they should be treated. And America has said we're never going to treat those veterans like they did during Vietnam again, and we shouldn't be treating the ICE officers. They're putting their lives on the line, and then they're getting spit at, and then they're getting gang members, and other people are trying to beat them. And then you got Democrats who are fueling the flames. We need to protect our law enforcement. We need to care about America and our communities, guys.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the pain points of wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.